Obamacare is fixed. Obamacare is fixed. Yay! Not really. Hi, hello. Welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. I'm hearing Obama light. I'm hearing this is great. Obama's gone. And by the way, the taxes and all that stuff will be gone. I just didn't see anything in there for me yet. Hi, y'all. Welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline if you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show. It's your opportunity to be a voice. By the way, we loaded up today, too. Dr. Ben Chavez is going to be with us. And he's a guy that doubled his success in public education while cutting taxes in half. He says the worst thing you can do is raise taxes for education. Oops. I hope I didn't step on nobody's toes. Anyway, we'll have him on at 9:30 today. I'm really looking forward to it. He's a guy that took high-risk students, inner city principal that took dead last schools, high-risk kids with half the money and made it better. So we're going to talk to him from 9:30 to 10. Elliot Stone Cipher joins us at 10:06 talking about the mega taxes that I personally think now will be passed by these Republicans in the House and Senate unless we the people stop them. And I don't see we the people stopping them. Once again, Republicans will give in and cut and run with taxes. We know the Senate, John Alario owns every one of those senators. He owns them like his little bitty puppets. He plays them as much as he wants to play them. We don't have enough Republicans in the House to stop them. And yet, why do we elect Republicans in the House and Senate? Why are they in charge again? I mean, somebody's going to have to explain this to me today. Anyway, Elliot Stone Cipher will knock that out of the park. And then One Nation News, Susan Swift, and you're going to enjoy her as well. And so we'll get to her at 10:30 the program. So we got a little bit of everything. Now, Brandon, I want you to set this up for me because we do have I was off of Fox News dealing with and what they did is the highlights of the House GOP's Obamacare placement bill. They're going to talk a little bit about it. By the way, real quick, I don't see anything yet for people like me, small business guy. I'm glad they're getting rid of the taxes and all the things that they're doing. People can stay on their policies at 26. It doesn't supposed to affect people with pre-existing conditions, which we always said that was the biggest problem in the health care besides the cost. So we're going to play this and come back and talk about it a little bit. And, of course, we're going to visit with Dr. Ben Chavez, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him. So here we go. This is Fox News kind of summarizing and talking a little bit about what was passed. Not passed, Brandon, by the way, presented. There's no vote on it yet. This was presented.
Calling it the American Health Care Act. The sweeping legislation would repeal many of Obamacare's taxes, along with the so-called individual and employer mandates. Leading Republicans say this will fulfill a promise years in the making.
It has been 7 years since Obamacare was passed into law. It is collapsing. It has hurt more people than it's helped. And so tonight we deliver on President Trump's promise to repeal and begin replacing it with two big principles. One, to restore state control of health care, get it out of Washington.
But not all Republicans are loving it, some calling it Obamacare light. Peter Ducey is live on Capitol Hill with reaction. All right, Peter, what stays, what goes in this new plan?
Shannon, Uncle Sam will no longer be able to fine somebody for not having insurance because the individual mandate disappears if the American Health Care Act replaces the Affordable Care Act. The employer mandate goes away, too. That's the one that required a lot of employers to provide health insurance for people that work for them or face a fine. And another big change is going to come after 2020. That's when some Medicaid funding that helped dozens of governors expand coverage for residents living in their states near the poverty line will be reduced. But some of the things that will not change in the GOP replacement bill are the things that were popular in Obamacare. So people will still be able to get new insurance coverage even if they've got a pre-existing condition. Younger Americans can stay attached to their parents' insurance plans until they are 26 years old if they want to. And the federal dollars that did help states expand Medicaid will remain intact through 2020. And that is a big one because a few hours before the language of this GOP replacement bill came out, 4 Republican senators came forward to say they were worried that whatever the text was, it was not going to go far enough protecting people who got new coverage when Medicaid expanded in their states. Shannon.
All right, to that point and some other concerns, how divided, Peter, are lawmakers who are now responding to this version of the bill?
It's pretty divided, Shannon. There are basically three camps right now. There are Democrats, there are Republicans who think that leadership is on the right track here, and then there are Republicans who do not think that leadership is on the right track here. So first, you've got Democrats. Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi says this: "This Republican bill will do massive damage to millions of families across the nation.
Pelosi.
Republicans have decided that affordable health care should be the privilege of the wealthy, not the right of every family in America." The Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, disagrees, though. He says this: "The American Health Care Act is a plan to drive down costs, encourage competition, and give every American access to quality, affordable health insurance." But the more conservative wing of the party, of the Republican Party, thinks that repealing and replacing should be done separately. So in a joint op-ed, Senator Rand Paul and Congressman Mark Meadows from the Freedom Caucus say this: "We should debate all of these replacement ideas on the same day we pass repeal, but we will have to separate the debate into at least two different bills because there is no consensus with leadership on replacement." And remember, all of this reaction is happening even though nobody on the left or the right knows how much this bill is going to cost. So, since nobody knows how much it is going to cost, it still is not clear if this Republican replacement will save the country money on health care. Shannon.
All right.
A couple things. And I read through some of the things that it's supposed to do. Medicaid by 2020, all the stuff that Bill Edwards is billing up through Medicaid that the press keeps telling you is good, we're going to be sunk like a yard dog in 2020. Okay? All this free stuff that people seem to get, I'm telling you, we don't have the money to do it anymore. And Medicaid is going to be a major problem, and it's becoming a major problem. Everybody talks about the Medicaid money coming in. Nobody talks about the money we got to put out to get some kind of matching fund and things of that nature. I looked at the plan that they put out, 26 years of age. People like it, so let's keep it. So if we liked all of Obamacare and we're going broke, let's keep it, right? The pre-existing conditions, I have a daughter with pre-existing conditions. I did pretty good until Obama came along. I was able to take care of it until Obamacare came along. Federal Medicaid money to 2020, that's when the state's going to get really popped, and that's why taking all this money. Edwards is wrong. Our state is wrong for it. We had a charity system that was way better than Obamacare. Way better. It was just expensive because of, and people will tell you, people run into emergency rooms with a cold and a cough and a fever. And that's builds your biggest problem. So we should have did like other states and had local in-and-out clinics, and that would have been better off. And nobody knows the cost of it. Why is health care costing the taxpayers? Why is health care costing the taxpayers so much money? I understand when we get older, we got to do something about helping people, but why does it have to be the taxpayers that have to keep footing the bill for people that can foot the bill for themselves? It does not show me what happens in my case. Subsidies will be key primarily to age. Financial assistance would be phased out for individuals making more than 75 and married couples earning more than 150. So what if you're a married couple and you make more than that? You know, you're screwed. All this subsidies for people to get insurance. I mean, I'm telling y'all, this whole thing about Obamacare was designed to blow up, and I still think it will. I don't know what they're going to pass. I mean, this is just a preliminary bill, and one of the reasons we're seeing it right now is because people have been bickering and nothing's been done about it. Everything I read so far does not. I don't see at all how this helps a person in my position. I don't see how it helps the small business guy. Unless we're going to determine that couples that make over $150,000 are rich. And if y'all think a couple that makes over $150,000 is rich, or somebody single making $75,000 is rich, you don't understand anything. It's all relevant. How many kids do you have? Where you live? All that stuff comes in place. And so I'm not looking for subsidies. Now, I did see one thing I did like, Brandon. It was the medical savings accounts. And I need that. You know what I'm saying? I need to have medical savings account where I can put money in there to help myself out. In other words, I don't want to help from somebody else. I want to help. It said greatly expand contributions to health savings accounts, which allows people with high deductibles and insurance to cover expenses that the plan don't pay for. And that would help me. But I need to know where I'm going to be able to buy insurance that makes it competitive. all the mandates and taxes coming off of this. That means Brandon, I do not have to buy birth control pills anymore for myself, which is probably a good thing. All right, one quick call. Let's go to Buck on the road. Buck, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Moon. It's a replacement bill. If one thing will say it all is this morning, the Speaker of the House said that this bill will guarantee health insurance, access to health insurance. That's a little different than access to health care.
That's a big difference.
You know, and what they've done is the subsidies in Obamacare are just now tax credits, which we already pay enough to people that have no tax liability. So this is another tax credit that they're going to get to subsidize the cost of their insurance, but they still can't pay their health care. So that cost still comes to us through our insurance and what we pay the hospital, the people that do pay. So the way this bill is set up, and just like you were saying a minute ago, why do you need a health savings account to be able to afford plans with high deductibles? Why don't they do something about the deductibles? If insurance or health care was more affordable, everything would go down.
Well, Buck, the big thing is affordability. That was my big thing all along. And pre-existing conditions, I always felt like, not because I have a daughter, because I've been able to do pretty well until last year or two on Obamacare. I feel like that.
Two things. One, you have a 30% surcharge if you drop your insurance and get reinsured. I think it may be for just people with pre-existing conditions. And two, the ACA limited health care for older people. The insurance company can charge you 3 times what they charge younger people because you're older. This bill raises that to 5
times. I was going to mention that. It raises to 5 times as much now if you're older.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it raises it to 5 times as much. Yeah. So anyway, look. And by the way, it's not a bill really. It's just kind of put out there. This is what they've thrown out there to start negotiating. Unlike the Democrats, when Nancy Pelosi said, "You want to see what's in the bill? You gotta pass it," which was the dumbest thing we've ever done. Anyway, let me take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show, 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. We'll be right back. Moon Griffon Show, great to have you with us, 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. Obamacare replacement. Apparently they're headed in a direction. I think a lot of it was the heat to do something. I don't think what we see is exactly what's going to come out. I want to know where I can go buy competitive insurance from is my big deal. So I can just get in the competition and get the price down. All righty, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Kaepernick's new stand on the national anthem raises question. He's looking for a job. I don't think anybody's going to sign him myself. There may be somebody take a shot at him. And he's proven not to be a good quarterback for about 3 years now, maybe 4. And Kaepernick, of course, as you know, he was the guy that said, "I'm kneeling down for the pledge. I'm not standing for the pledge." And now he may not have a place to play, so you know what his new stand is? "Oh, I'm going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance now." It's amazing when he looks up and goes, let's see, I'm going to go from making, I guess he made, 15, 17 million a year. He's going to go from 17 million to 0. I mean, his stance
Hope he saved up.
I agree with you. He go from 17 million to 0, but he wanted to be this big political figure. Hell, let him go be a political figure. You start wondering if he still has the Muslim girlfriend. Anyway, 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline if you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show. Yeah, the Obamacare stuff is out there. And I understand that the Republicans have to change it, but I want to know and by the way, they cut all the taxes, all the mandates are going to come just out of the program. And I don't know how we afford to do what they probably want to do. But the government is just spending more and more and more money to bail people out. I'm telling you what's coming. Well, maybe we need to come up with a one-pay system for everybody. That's what I think is coming. And then the government's going to tell you how low and cheap it's going to be, and for about a year it is. And maybe a few years it is going to be, and then it's going to get worse and worse and worse. That's what they have in all these other countries. By the way, have you seen this? Attorney General Governor Edwards playing petty politics. By the way, this is a Greg Hillman report. I want to let y'all know. They could be true. There's a chance it's not. Republican Attorney General Jeff Landry stoked the coals of simmering feud with Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards, saying the governor's playing petty politics with Landry's agency budget. By the way, he is. Because they keep thinking Jeff's running for governor, and I don't think he is. I don't think he is at all. Jeff says, disappointing that while the governor's playing petty politics with my budget, our roads continue to fall, and reported that Louisiana's back to being 50th again in a U.S. News Magazine World Report. He was speaking at the Ouachita Republican Women in West Monroe. Edwards blamed the rankings on past administration, but fails to mention he voted for 7 of the 8 previous budgets while he was a member of the House. Jeff, they're not going to ever tell people how many budgets he voted for. And, by the way, during the article, Greg Hillman, it says Jeff Landry could be the front runner running against Bel Edwards. I'm going to tell you, I don't think he's eyeing the position at all, to be honest with you. Going to be shocked if he even considers it. But Landry's getting popped, and the press is getting popped because they continue. And Greg Hillman plays right into that to protect Bel Edwards. One quick call. Brett in New Iberia. How you doing, Brett?
I'm good, Moon. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Moon, one of the things about this Obamacare that I saw that really disturbed me is the reason why a lot of these Republicans are hemming and hawing about this is they've got financial interest in some of this insurance mess that Obamacare created. So we don't have anybody up there who's truly objective except maybe Trump.
You're probably right because you got a lot of doctors and people up there in a position. I don't doubt that. I'm just telling you, they need to fix it to where we have competition back in it.
But that's the free market thing we have to go back to.
Well, if you don't go back to free markets and let people compete, then you're not going to ever get down. The prices are never going to come down. They got to be a competitive way to do it. Pre-existing conditions has always been a problem.
That is true.
No doubt about it. But, people being like me, I just want to be able to afford it. I'm not asking for subsidies. I'm just asking to get out the way. And a lot of us are like that, but they're not doing it. Anyway, we'll see what the Republicans come up with. This is the start. This is to say we have something. That's what I've seen mostly. Anyway, we'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Dr. Ben Chavis when we get back. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show, heard around the great state of Louisiana and beyond, and we appreciate you joining us. Let's jump gears. Honored and privileged to have Dr. Benjamin Chavis on with us. He was Executive Director of the National Association of Advancement of Colored People. He's been a civil rights leader, worked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the civil rights movement for a long, long time, and he's come to be known as somewhat of an expert in education as well. Dr. Chavis, first of all, thanks for joining the program.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'd like to make a correction.
Yes, sir.
I'm not the same Dr. Ben Chavis. I am cousins with that Dr.
Oh, see, now it makes sense to me. But when I pulled it up, I said, "This is okay. You got it. Okay, hey, I love you already because you're honest."
Yes, yeah. I'm not the same person, but this has happened several times before. I did a show with Bill Cosby, and they did the same thing. So you're in the company.
I took the picture and I'm putting it by the other Ben Chavis, and now I'm seeing not the resemblance. All right, here we go. I think that's great. Hey, but you've done some things in education. Give us a background on the educational side, because I know you've helped turn around some inner cities, and I know you have problems with all these people that want to raise and double and triple taxes on everybody. But give us a little background what you're dealing with education.
Well, one of them, I think the key, I've worked in, Oakland, California. In 2012-13, my school was ranked the #1 high school in the nation, according to the Washington Post, the most challenging high school in the nation. 87% of every student in my high school passed the AP calculus. My black students had a higher passing rate than the Chinese students at Lowell High School, which is considered the top public high school. And in California, Lowell, you have to test to get into it. My kids outperformed. My black kids, nowhere in America have black kids ever outperformed Chinese kids, except at my school. So, but the key was all kids in my school did well. That was the point. All kids. And all kids can do well if we give them all the same training.
Sure.
If you want to be a good basketball player, you have to practice your free throw shooter. And I was an athlete in college, very lousy student. But when I got to college, my coach demanded that I get a tutor, and that really helped change my academic performance. And so I'm a believer, if I can change my academic performance, anyone can.
Sure.
And that's my philosophy: practice, 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 practice.
Well, you had to do that, and I guess it took a lot of discipline, because that's really what you're talking about. Not only practice, but the discipline to do it and get it done.
You're right. Discipline is the main thing. You have to show up. You have to be willing to work. And then there has to be consequences. And that's one of the main problems with public education. We don't have discipline. Our teachers have a higher absentee rate than students now in schools throughout the United States. Administrators are always at conferences trying to figure out, if you look at Louisiana and North Carolina, where I'm at right now, we spend an unbelievable amount of money training teachers to teach kids. But we send them to universities, and then after they leave a university and they come back to our public school system, every other month we have a teacher work day. We have a teacher training day. Weren't they trained at the university? We need to refocus and just focus on providing discipline for our students and an academic base. And when kids don't do the work, retain them.
Yeah. By the way, talking to Dr. Ben Chavis, and of course, education is what he's dealt with. Let me ask you a question. The other question before I get into some of the meat of what we wanted to talk about, you had to do this, and a lot of public school teachers, as you know, all of them have to deal with what they get. And I'm not talking about race here. I'm talking about a family life that could be good, could be bad, could be horrible. How do you deal with that? Because, you're dealing with kids that are coming from a situation. Once again, this is no target on anybody, but it's just a fact. Public school teachers deal with everything they get. And what I mean by it is what they're getting from home. How did you deal with that? Because I would take it that was tough.
Nah, I have the opposite philosophy. Give me the worst kid. I come from a single parent family. American Indian. I'm an American Indian and black. My mother had 6 kids, no father. My mother never made more than $2,000 a year in her life. We were sharecroppers.
Wow.
So I have the opposite philosophy. I would hate to have to teach Bill Gates' kids. Can you imagine having to work with Bill Gates or, all these famous, or Oprah if she had kids? I don't know if she can have them or not, but if she did, imagine having to work with these people. As a matter of fact, my philosophy is give me the poor kids, give me the disadvantaged kids. I disagree. I think educators complain too much about the student's background. As a matter of embracing, I embrace their background. I believe it's easier to work with poor kids. It's easier to improve with poor kids. It's the even and when the kid, here's the breakdown in the public school system. There's no accountability. There's only excuses. What we do is we come up with, well, he's poor. Well, his mom. I remember my parent told me, Dr. Chavis, the mother's a prostitute. My philosophy was, at least she's working. She's not on welfare.
Wow.
But we come up with excuses too much for these kids in the public school system, and now the public knows all the excuses. Even the public says the excuse. What we should do is embrace, but we've got to hold kids and parents accountable. And the way to do this, and here's the biggest problem with public education I see, besides always wanting more money. You can never give them enough money. The biggest problem is they don't hold kids accountable. If a kid doesn't do their work, they continue to pass them, and that's the problem. You cannot pass people who are not prepared, and in our public schools, we are failing them by passing them. It's true in Louisiana. I looked at your ACT scores. Your average ACT score, your math ACT score is 18.8. Unbelievable. Low.
But you know what, Dave? But let me tell you what we do here. Every 5 years, we have I hate to tell you this, every 5 years we do education reform. It always means more money, but you know what? I've never seen education reform work in our state, Dr. Chavis. I just hadn't. I haven't seen it work one time, not one time ever, and yet, here we go again. Here it is right here, Louisiana, 5-year push to reach national average of public high schools. Students earning college credits missed the target by a lot. The national average is 22%. We're at 8. I mean, it never stops. But we're adding money. We're adding more money to this situation.
Well, your former governor, who was supposedly a Republican, he believed in throwing money at the problem.
Oh yeah, he was bad.
He was bad. I mean, and with no results. We like spend. In Louisiana, in your district, Lafayette, looking at your numbers, you have 27,000 students.
Well, hold up, they telling us 31,000, Dr. Chavis.
Well, you got 27,530 in reality, because you can't trust them. Remember this, you cannot trust them. But math does not lie. According to the state, now I went to your state. The state says you have 27,530 who come to school.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's called average daily attendance. They may have 31,000 or 30,000 enrolled, but you can't count people who don't come to school.
But that's what they're telling people, because they're getting ready to try to pass another tax here. That's what they're telling people. They're using the 31,000 number. Oh,
of course they are. It benefits them.
Yeah.
And you guys are getting about $12,780 per child.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And you need more money? You can attend the University of North Carolina at Pembroke for $10,500. Let's say $11,000. Your child will live on campus, get 3 meals a day, go to school 4 times, stay there for about 9 months, and it's only $11,000. And in your state, they're spending $12,780 in your town. They don't get 3 meals. Well, maybe they do. I don't know how many meals they get a day, but I know they're not living on campus.
One of the things
it's cheaper to send them to college than it is to send them to your public school.
One of the things that you say, let me quote you, a budget cut is the best thing that can happen in public education. Why do you say that?
Because we have too much money in schools. You have so much money that there's waste. They continue, they hire consultants, they're training teachers. They're wasting money. School board members and especially school administrators don't know how to live within a budget. We hire people to run schools who have no idea on how to run a budget. As a matter of fact, I think we should do a background check on every school administrator in America who's working in a school to see if they can manage their own budget. I would bet you your superintendent probably can't bet. Let's check out their budget, meaning their own personal finance budget. Mm-hmm. Most school administrators have no idea on how to do a budget. They can't do math, and they're supposedly leading a district to train kids on how to do math. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, let me take a break.
Have people who can't manage money.
Dr. Ben Chavis, my special guest, dealing with education. He says a budget cut is the best thing that can happen in public education. By the way, Dr. Chavis, we do school reform about every 5 years in Louisiana. I ain't seen anything work in school reform. So you got to explain to me what school reform is, or education reform is, because I ain't seen it in Louisiana. But by the way, we paying the big bucks. We'll take a break. Be right back, Dr. Chavis, right after this. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Dr. Ben Chavis, my special guest. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. By the way, Dr. Chavis is in Lafayette, March the 24th, luncheon event at the Petroleum Club of Lafayette. He will be the guest speaker. This is Friday at noon in Lafayette. We'll give you more information on that later, so you can get in touch if you want to come listen to him talk about education. And, I know you were laughing going out, but I'm not making it up. I've been doing this for 23 years, so I've been from Governor Edwards to Foster to Blanco to Jindal to now Bell Edwards. And every one of them had education reform in their platform. Every one of them said they changed it for the better. Jindal was as bad as anybody. I admit this. The guy we got there now, Dr. Chavis, is really a joke. He was put in because they didn't like Senator Vitter, and people regret it already. But I like the idea because every time, and I want to go back to something you said about a budget cut's the best thing, because in each one of these reforms, we've added more money to the budget. We've got too many universities here. They don't want to address it. We're just going to keep funding them. And so we'll never get our budget straight. So the answer is always take some more money out of the pockets of people that go to work every day.
Yeah, and especially the reason you asked the question earlier, you said, why do we have a reform about every 5 years? Because we have a new person in charge.
Correct.
And then what they want to do is they want to get a new pot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then they got to pay off all their buddies who elected on them. And in particular, they say we don't have a teachers union, but we do have a teachers union in America. It's called the NEA, National Education Association. Mm-hmm. And they have to be paid back So you have to continuously to have reform to pay back these people who supported you to get in office.
Yeah, because what I'm telling you, you've seen, but I'm telling you what's going on here. It doesn't matter if it's K through 12 or it's higher ed. We just keep raising taxes, and we never. Example: if you got too many universities, you never will fund them properly. But nobody addressed that because so what they do is they just say, give us some more money. And then we have budget deficits. And it's I'm watching this thing go over here. That's why I'm asking you, have you ever seen education reform? Because you act like you were part of it. And if you were, I wish somebody would come in and show our elected officials what education reform is all about. Because I hadn't seen it yet, Doc. I'm looking, I promise you.
What they don't want to, look, you get paid more money when kids are failing. The focus is, education is the only profession I know. It's the only profession I know where you get more money if your school is failing. So why would a school district want to improve if they get more money for failing?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you.
Then you can blame the parents, you can blame the kids, you can blame the community, you can blame everybody. Educators blame everybody in the world but themselves. Think about it. We blame the customer. We blame the parent. I get irritated when I hear people blame the parents now. Oh, he's poor. Oh, he's black. Oh, he's Cajun. Oh, he's Southerner. Man, when are we going to run out? Why don't we just say he is not prepared and we did not prepare him or her? That's the problem. If a school's failing, it is the principal, it's the superintendent, and it's the school board because they allowed it. They got $12,000. You're getting over $12,000 per student in your school district. And if any kid is failing, it's the school district's problem. It's their fault.
Let me ask you a question. Do we have kids that fail because we're not in a great brick building or a beautiful building or a rebuilt school? Does that have anything to do with this?
Has nothing to do with it. That's the same issue going on in my county. They tried to pass a policy. We got rid of 3 school board members. That's what we did. They tried to pass a budget, $1.5 billion to build new schools. Supposedly, research says new schools improve academic performance. I don't know how Jesus Christ did anything. He was born in a barn. You might call it a manger, but it was still a barn. B-A-R-N. It has nothing to do with students' academic performance. A nice facility. In about 2006, there was a national government technology, it's called. They did an article. In my school, when I was the principal, I did not allow computers. That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Not to me, but I mean, they would to younger people because they've only had computers in the schools for X amount of years, and those people wouldn't know what to do without a computer.
Yeah, well, listen. When I came to the school district, they had all this computer lab, they had all these computers, and they were broken into once a month. And the same thing's going on in your county, in your parish. Computers, people will break in your school and steal your computers, but they will not break in your school and steal a book. You can have a math book, lay it down in your car, raise down the window, leave it anywhere in your parish of Lafayette, and no one would steal it.
If you left it on the roof of the car, it got a better chance the weather would get it before somebody else.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a quick question. How did you have to do the brief story. How did you get things done then from an educational standpoint? Because to me, that's all that matters.
Well, my background is poverty.
Yes, sir.
That was the advantage. I never had much, so I don't need much. I have a different philosophy than most people in education. Most people in education, compared to me, now, I was a sharecropper. I'm not saying my grandparents were sharecroppers. My parents were sharecroppers. I was a sharecropper. I worked in the field. I got 1 pair of shoes a year. 1 pair. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't make it, I didn't have. I remember, true story, 1 year, my shoes, the bottom fell out. What I did, I only had 1 sock. I was like, I'm going to school because I was an athlete. I want to be seen. So you know what I did? I took that 1 shoe on my other foot. I put on 3 socks, and I told my friends to hurt my foot. But I only had 1 shoe. Mm-hmm. I improvised. Did I lie? I did lie. But I wanted to go to school because I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to go to college because my dream, I knew the only way I was going to get out of poverty is if I went to college. I was hungry. But I had teachers in those days, and I went to an all-Indian school. I had teachers in those days who pushed me. They didn't come excuse and says, oh, son, you're an illegitimate child. Oh, son, your mother's single. Oh, son, you're poor. They said, boy, you got to work extra hard. And that's not what we don't do that anymore. We don't put the responsibility where it should be. The responsibility should be on the school district, the superintendent, the school board, and the principals.
You know,
because the principals aren't letting teachers do their job.
I was born and raised in a town, Plaquemine, Louisiana, not too far out of Lafayette, about an hour. And you know, teachers, I had a lot of great teachers, but there's always one that sticks out. And I had a 6th grade math teacher. He was a black gentleman. And I was in a school with, I don't know, we had a few more whites than blacks, but it was mixed. And let me tell you something in his class. He did not care where you came from. And he would tell you. He'd tell you in front of the whole class. He didn't care about your mama, your daddy, your family. When you in this class, you were going to learn. I saw him throw erasers and hit people in the head. He did not care. He did not care. He ended up being one of the best math teachers, and I'd sit up at the front. I can't hear real good, so they stuck me up to the front where I could at least hear a little bit. And I tell you what, I had so much respect for him, but he'd tell them, I don't care what kind of night you have. In my class, you're not going to act up. You're going to get your lesson. And I never forget that gentleman. He worked us, but he worked everybody. You had no excuse for not learning in his class, and he tells you right up front, I don't care who you are, who your mom is, who your daddy is, I don't care what color you are. When you come in this class, you better come ready to learn. And I'm going to tell you, he demanded it. And guess what? Most of the kids in that school, in that particular class, when I had him, I'm telling you, they got their lesson. Because he'll throw eraser. Now, you can't do that anymore, but he'll throw an eraser with the chalk on it, hit you in the head, and you have a black mark on your head. I mean, a white mark.
You know what? Yeah. Well, he was a good teacher. And you remember, I had a teacher just like him, Mr. Lawrence McDuffie. Same way, black guy drive old Volkswagen. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. Mr. McDuffie, and it's interesting, you had a math, and he was my math teacher. Same thing. I had him in 8th grade. And this guy, he didn't want to hear all your excuses. He did not want. He was just like Mr. McDuffie. He'd take us outside. He said, "You don't want to work, boy?" He said, "Go hit that field." We'd have to run around this big field at the school. But we all loved him. When I got married, he was my best man because the first time I ever was on a college campus, Mr. McDuffie took me to a college campus. I'd never been on a college campus. Now here I am, high school, had never been on. He said, "You're a good enough athlete. You can go to college." I'm like, "College? I don't want to go to college. I want to drop out." And I was so dumb. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, here's what Mr. McDuffie said. He looked at me and said, "You don't want to go to college?" I said, "No." I said, I mean, to me, it was work. And I didn't want to work that hard. I wanted to have a good time. He said, "Boy," he looked at me, he said, "Boy, do you like girls?" "Yeah, I like girls." He said, "A lot of girls at college." True story.
Well, I'm glad you got to go. We'll do it again, Dr. Chavis. Thank you so much. And you'll be in here March 24th. So we may talk to you again before then. Thank you very much, and God bless.
God bless you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we got to take a quick break. Elliot Stone Cipher at the top of the hour. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. If you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show, it's your opportunity to be a voice. Let's jump gears. My good friend Elliot Stone Cipher returns for a couple segments. Elliot, how you doing, sir?
Good, man. Good to be here.
Well, Elliot, I'm not giving up. But sometimes I feel like I'm giving in. I'm going to make a statement to you, and you may shock you a little bit. I think that Bill Edwards, with Republicans, will pass just about every single tax they want to pass. I think they'll add another $1.5 billion to what they already have, although they're going to change it around and move it around so it's not going to look like that. And I think Republicans will give in. I made the comment yesterday, if I was in a foxhole and I had to fight, and a Democrat and a Republican both said they in the fight with me, I would rather have the Democrat in the foxhole because I've seen them fight and they really fight. The Republican could get up and run. The Republican could turn the gun on me. The Republican could go on the other side and shoot the gun back at me. And there's a little chance he's going to fight with me. So I say all that to say that get ready to see some of the highest taxes we've ever seen in Louisiana, which I think will doom us in a few years. And the last thing I'll tell you before you touch it is I think this is all with the help of the press to make John Bel Edwards look like he really fixed something, because they can get through the next couple of years with no budget cuts, mid-year budget cuts, and they'll say he fixed it, even though in the weeks and months and years after that we'll probably burn up. I think that's what's ahead of us, and I only see one person fighting it, and it's me, and I ain't doing too well. I said a lot, Elliot.
People like us are woefully outnumbered here.
Yeah,
I think
by the way, I would take you in the foxhole. I'm not talking about you, but the foxholes must be really small because we barely can fit.
That's right. That's right. It's a small group, and apparently, ironically, for a state in as much trouble as Louisiana is in, it's getting worse, and you just wouldn't think that was true. It is. I find, Moon, that people really do grasp the essence of the argument when you say we somehow moved, and we did, from government of, by, and for the people to government of, by, and for government. And we're in the worst of conditions in America because people like us who actually work and actually pay taxes, we are told, and demographically we can say we are a red state. How did we end up with a blue government? Mm-hmm. How does that happen? How is it anything but a one-off? Because I agree with you. I don't think it's a one-off. I think John Bel Edwards is going to be reelected unless something happens that we can't see right now. And I think the intelligentsia, to use an old and awful term, in Baton Rouge, I don't care if that's attached to LSU or if it's attached to state government, they, of course, only know one thing. They don't know left from right, good from bad. That's not where they are. They know one thing. How much money can we pump into the economy that is state government based in Baton Rouge and the economy that is higher education? And we all have to understand that's what the subject is, because what we're not doing is cutting government. We're not doing it. What we're doing is raising taxes instead of cutting government in a state that is shrinking. And by the way, I mentioned to Brandon as I came on, Moon, that I sent you all a link to an article I wrote last year.
I got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In the midst of that article, and it's up on realshreveport.com as well, and the title of it is Dear Louisiana Taxman, Know Why Rice Plays Texas? Mm-hmm. It's about an old speech from John Kennedy. And it's about not doing the things that are hard, doing only the things that are easy. And that's what Louisiana has absolutely turned into. This is a place where instead of lawmakers, instead of so-called leaders, doing what this state must do to survive, we're going to do the easy thing instead. We're going to force more and more people who pay taxes, and we are fewer and fewer, we're going to force them to leave. So here's an interesting thing that I think is happening. We are at a moment, an inflection point in Louisiana, where suddenly accountability is looming for everybody that calls him or herself a leader. Leaders are almost never held accountable because people don't run for office anymore, and voters will just put you back in there because you have $50,000 to run, and nobody will put up $50,000 to run against you. Yep. That is not accountability. Accountability in the context I'm discussing, Moon, is about how history views what happened. Louisiana will soon, based on exactly what we're discussing, driving people out who pay taxes, Louisiana is going to begin losing population net every year. Remember, we've been barely getting 15,000 or so new people a year in the population numbers, and a lot of that has been from undocumented workers who are now, one way or another, that tide is over. It crested. It's now withdrawing. They will be returning to Mexico and Central American countries, or they will otherwise not stay here. When you add that out-migration to the out-migration of people who pay taxes and cannot afford to live in Louisiana anymore, they're going to leave, the others are going to leave, and we're going to roll over into having fewer people in some given soon year than we had the year before. Moon, when that happens, you don't turn it back around.
Yeah.
We will then become West Virginia. They are now trying, and they hope with President Trump, to regen their coal industry. If they do, maybe they can stop the impending death of the population spiral there. We're about to take their place. So here's political accountability. If you're John Bel Edwards, if you're the legislature, if you're our co-governor, Jay Darden, you have to ask yourself this question. What is the chance that history is going to view what is happening in Louisiana right now on my watch as the point at which Louisiana tipped over to its absolute economic death? What if history says I was the governor when that happened? What if history says I was in the legislature and I voted for all those taxes and I stepped on that accelerator of out-migration? That's what these folks are playing with. And to go back to my article, let's remember what that was about. 2004 to 2015. Simple numbers. Our population grew by only 3% in that dozen years or so. Revenue grew by $2 billion. Now, these are inflation-adjusted numbers. This doesn't have anything to do with hurricanes. Revenue grew by $2 billion, or 9%, while population grew by 3%, and spending grew by 15%.
Yep.
Now,
God.
Those numbers right there prove a simple thing, Moon. The people who say they are our leaders, who are anything but, are absolutely presiding over the moment at which we become a perpetually losing state with no chance of ever turning it back around, certainly in our lifetimes. Revenue, 3 times the rate of population growth. Spending, 5 times the rate of population growth. We can wink and nod all we want to. It's nuts what's going on, man.
Yeah, I think it's worse than wink and nod because that all these people want to vote, and you mentioned blue state, red state. We got Republicans in the House, Republican in the Senate, but John Alario sits at the top of the Senate, so the Senate is already toast. We can't count on any Republicans in the Senate. There's going to be a few vote against it, but it's only a vote because they can, and it's not going to stop anything. So now you get down to only a handful of House members. Democrats are going to vote with it. The weak Republicans are going to vote for it. I don't see how we're going to stop the tax train. And it's funny. I read an article today. Stephanie Grace, who is no conservative writer, writes that besides, Republicans have voted for all these taxes too. Republicans are voting for the taxes. And I'm going, they are. They really are. And I thought, wow, we don't have enough in the fight. And we always lose in the conference committee. Always lose in the conference committee.
And then and I know you do think about it. I hope our listeners will think about it. Why would a Republican, I'm serious, why would a Republican vote to finish Louisiana off?
I don't know. That's what I keep
asking. Why do you do that? Here's their choice. And boy, this is tough. This is a choice that many of us make every year in our personal lives. Can we keep spending what we've been spending when the money's not coming in? The answer is no. So what do you do if you're handling your household affairs? Well, if you're not maxed out on your credit cards, and that's a game that's just going to catch up with them, of course, you have to cut spending. We have people supposedly leading this state who would rather start digging its grave than cut government.
I know.
It's insane because we have a government way too big for what this state is.
I know.
What in the world are they thinking?
I don't. You know what? We're getting ready to see. It's not that I'm giving up, because I'm not. I'm going to keep fighting through the whole process. But they're going to listen to Jay Darden and Edwards, who I'm still sticking with one term. But if they give him all his taxes, they're going to be bragging how he's got it all fixed. And it'll be short-lived, of course. Elliot Stonecipher, my special guest. We'll take a break, come back with one more segment with Elliot. And by the way, we'll be using him a lot coming up. So we'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Welcome back, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. If you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show, it's your opportunity to be a voice. Elliot Stonecipher, my special guest. Only about 6 minutes left in the program with Elliot. Elliot, do you find it, and I just want to throw this at you, we know what the press is doing, and I think I summed it up at the beginning of the segment with you, of what they're trying. Their goal is to get Edwards reelected. And they feel like
their goal to raise taxes as much as possible.
Well, and that
those people in Washington to raise taxes more than Louisiana.
Well, but part of the goal then is Edwards to be reelected, and by raising taxes, they think they're going to get all this money in, and then they're not going to have mid-year budget cuts, and they're going to say problem solved. That's where I think they're going with all this. But why does a man like Hilario, you've been around longer than me, where does he get his power from? How does he have so much power? He owns individuals. He actually, the Senate, and I'm going to use the word, is enslaved to John Hilario. How does he enslave people?
And you're asking exactly the question that I asked when I said, what are these people thinking? How, with very basic evidentiary statistics in front of you, showing that we're about to roll into a population spiral down, why would a legislator ever sign on to anything except cutting the size of government? You're asking it the pure political way. Why do they let themselves be led by a man like John Hilario? Here's the answer. Selfishness.
Yep, I agree.
You don't cut taxes. You don't do the right thing. You don't care if you're held accountable for having done the wrong thing. And you kiss the ring of John Hilario because you want something for yourself.
Sure. Gotta be. That's
all it is. Look, it's not a mystery. It's LSU tickets. It's better LSU tickets. It's a job for your wife's cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally, in the next 5 minutes, list 25 things that I know of in my career as a fact that people sell their veritable souls for from political bosses. It's like look, I don't know whether the Huey and Earl Long era ever died. John Hilario would have absolutely been a darling of Huey and Earl Long.
Mm-hmm. But
where's the change?
Yeah. Well, you're right, but why do we have Republicans in all these positions if they never change anything? I mean, I don't understand. Give me an example. Had a Republican come see me without mentioning his name, and he was telling me that the sales tax that they increased now put the Republicans in a great place to negotiate. He's a first-termer. And I looked at him in a private meeting and said, you're totally wrong. You now are in a bad position. Because what they did is the same thing with Stelly. They took a temporary sales tax on food and utilities and turned it into income tax 17 years later. They're going to do it quicker now. They're going to take the 1 cent sales tax. They're going to tell us they lowered the sales tax for you and me while we get rid of exemptions, we raise income taxes, and all those things that are coming. So
yes.
He put us in a bad position, but I couldn't explain it to him. He's getting ready to see what I mean. It was a bad position to go with the temporary sales tax because now they got the money that's been funneling into the state government, and they need that plus more. So you got a choice. Extend that or give them what they want.
Yes. And look, we can carry it one horrible step further. What this conversation inevitably ends up with is the following, and this is the part that you and I have to really just blanch every time we glimpse it. What percentage of the people in Louisiana pay taxes? And is that the story here? Is the story here really about the fact that so many people who net contribute to the financial future of Louisiana have already left, that we're down to the point now where the people that argue what you and I are arguing are a distinct minority of Louisianans? What if the real story here is that the worst of what could happen has already happened? What if Louisiana is a place that simply does not have enough people who care about high taxes to ever change that momentum? Those numbers I just read off were after a 26% rate of inflation was adjusted.
Wow.
It's not including hurricane money. And you're spending, and here it comes, drum roll please, 5 times the rate of population growth. How many more taxpayers do we need before they cut government, Moon? And the answer is way, way more than we can expect to get. The media is simply ringing or blowing a dog whistle to everybody in and around government. And here's what the whistle brings in. People who just want to attach to government.
Yep.
They only care about themselves. and they don't give a tinker's hoot what happens to Louisiana or the people here who net contribute to its future.
Yeah, by the way,
they just want the money.
11 years, Louisiana revenue has risen 3 times the rate of population growth, and spending has jumped 5 times that rate. That is phenomenal. By the way, their budget's up almost over 8% this year, and all you read was the cuts they were making. Phenomenal. Hey, Elliot, stick around because, not right now, but I'll be using you a lot as me and you try to fight it if nobody else. Thank you, sir. All right, when we get back, she will be on, Susan Swift. Obama spied, media lied. Don't go nowhere, folks. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Obama spied, the media lied. Miss Susan Swift joins us, One Nation News. Susan, how you doing?
I am doing great, Moon. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I couldn't wait to have you on. And Brandon's my producer. He started this. Him and another gentleman, Shannon, started their own program. We saw this yesterday, and Brandon said, I'm using this. I said, go for it. I said, but I'm going to use it, too. We're a program that's all over the state of Louisiana, and even Mississippi. So we wanted to get you on. And, this thing jumped up. Donald Trump tweets out. I think President Trump, has some saneness into his tweets, although the people on the left and the press, they nut up about it. But I think there's some saneness in the fact that there was a lot of truth in what he tweeted out, although that's not what the press is trying to make it sound like. So just what's going on with this? Is this another Nixon Watergate?
Well, if it is true, it is way beyond Watergate. Now, the state that we're at right now is that Mark Levin and Andrew McCarthy, Joel Pollack at Breitbart, they have assembled timelines, and they have gone back and read through reports. These are newspaper reports. This is like the New York Times.
By the way, Susan, just to let you know, we let our audience yesterday hear Mark Levin for about 10 minutes. So we played, I'm just letting you know that because we played the whole thing, and we sat back there and we were wild about Mark Levin. So we did play that for our audience, so they're with you on that.
Then they know. So the bottom line is, look, either there were FISA court requests made or not. Okay. Now we have organizations saying yes, that they have sources that say yes, there were FISA court warrants requested in June and October. All right. Are they lying? Well, if they are, that's a very simple thing. You go to Congress, and Congress requests the FISA court to produce these warrants, to produce the submissions and the warrants themselves. That's an easy thing to do. And if Trump is saying, hey, I was hacked, that's what the FISA court does. The FISA court issues warrants to surveil foreign entities.
Sure.
And so they either exist or they don't. Now, we also know from the New York Times that this is from January 19th. Mark Levin talked about it, and I'm picking out another section of it. This is Michael Schmidt reporting. He said half a dozen current and former officials, that's 6 for you and me, half a dozen current and former officials confirmed the existence of the investigations that's into Trump, his associates in the campaign. All of them spoke on condition of anonymity because they're not authorized to discuss the case.
Sure.
Yeah, you betcha, because if they are revealing things that are in a very confidential security intelligence that is at the subject of the FISA court, they may have committed felonies. Who knows? What we need to do is we need to have Congress go to the FISA court and say, produce these things. We need to see them. And then we need to find out what Obama knew and when did he know it. There's been two different statements that come up. James Clapper came out and, categorically denied it. The problem with Clapper is we already know that he lies under oath, because back during the NSA hearings on metadata and how the government was maybe tapping all of our phones, he got caught in a lie during the NSA hearings on that. So,
let me interrupt you a second, Susan. But we also have a history on Obama of wiretapping. We also have a history of Obama using the IRS to go after Tea Party. Those are facts. Everybody knows that right now. So and we know that Obama lies, and just look at Obamacare and Benghazi and all that stuff. So there's a lot of history to believe this could be true, and probably is true.
Absolutely. The IRS, and I wrote about that at Nation One News, that the IRS had targeted Tea Party conservatives and harassed them and wouldn't give them the tax exempt status that they wanted. The DOJ, this is Obama's DOJ, spied on a CBS reporter. This is Cheryl Atkinson, and actually monitored every keystroke on her computer. She said it was freaking her out. She wrote a book about it. Obama's DOJ targeted a Fox News reporter, James Rosen.
Yep.
So, and we also know that Obama had American citizens killed in drone operations. So we know that the Obama administration has no problem wielding the power of the federal government against private citizens. We also know from months and months and months that the government has been investigating ties between Trump and Russians because the Russians might have hacked into the election.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see all the information on that. It's really pouring out with facts. Hey, what do you make? What do you make of this though? And they just flashed this on Fox, and I've been reading this anyway. Why are Republicans jumping on the bandwagon here? Why don't they support Mr. Trump? The Democrat, and I made this comment to our audience, and I was talking about Baton Rouge, but in general, if I was in a foxhole and I had to have somebody cover my back, and I had to pick a Republican or Democrat, and I'm independent because I had my beef with Republicans, but I would pick a Democrat. If it was, listen, if we in a foxhole and we got to fight, I want the person who's going to fight with me. They know how to fight. Republicans, we don't know if they're going to get up and run out the foxhole. We don't know if they're going to join the other side and shoot you. We don't know. But with a Democrat, at least we know when they're in the same boat with you, they're going to fight with you. So am I wrong by saying that? Because this Republicans, they're just not fighting.
No, I know. This is why Trump won the election, because he was an outsider, a non-establishment. We are so sick and tired of the rhino Republicans who sit there and wring their hands and won't fight. We wanted a fighter, and I absolutely agree. If you're going to pick between a Republican and a Democrat, who do you want to make sure has got your back? You want the Democrats, because you know they're all about self-preservation.
But for whatever the reason they're for you, whatever the reason they're doing what they're doing, I would rather have them because they're tougher, they're stronger, they believe in what they believe, although it's way left and it's stupid. At least they're in the boat with you, baby.
So long as you're agreeing and so long as you're giving them your money, Democrats will fight to the death for you, man. That's all.
Well, what I would do with a Democrat in that case is I say, okay, you're going to fight for me in this particular instance. Here's $10,000. They in the hole. I know they're not going to run.
That's right. They're with you till the money runs out, baby. They're with you till the money runs out.
See, the Republicans there, you look up and go, all right, let's fight. You look back, and the son of a gun is running. He's running. Right. He's running in the woods, so nobody even sees him in the fight. Unbelievable.
Right. And I really think that you're onto something, because the Republicans they're afraid of the news and the press. They never stand up and take a stand. And the other thing is, some of them, they really don't want to dismantle the nice, cushy establishment that they've got. They just want to shift control over onto the Republican side. They don't really want to dismantle a lot of these things. So there are a few of them, I think, that kind of want to undermine Trump and undermine some of his plans.
I think so too.
So they're not helping. They're just sitting there on the sidelines.
By the way, you mentioned a silent coup. I've heard Limbaugh use that. Explain what you mean to the average person before I take the break by silent coup. Is it because Republicans aren't saying anything? They're allowing them to do stuff because Trump has so many people from the Obama administration and all these different agencies that are trying to put the hurt on him? What do you mean by this?
Well, that was a term that was used by Mark Levin. I believe Rush has used it as well. And what it is referring to is that we've got a lot of Obama embeds in the government. They're bureaucrats that are already there. They're like ticks on a hound dog. You can't get them out. And they know what to do. They're already activated. That's why his denial to say, well, I never wiretap anything. It's just like, well, of course, Obama's not the guy who's going to sign off on a wiretap. That's why he had, people at DOJ, Loretta Lynch, people at FBI that know what to do. I mean, we're looking at the assistant deputy director of the DOJ right now is currently an Obama appointee because Jeff Sessions has recused himself, which was a stupid thing to do. But so right now the DOJ is in the hands of an Obama appointee. Yeah. So and the silent coup is what they're doing is they are so delaying. They're delaying the appointments to Trump's staff, things like that. They're slowing everything down that none of the work can be done. That's what's going on. Yeah, no doubt. Let me take a break. Susan Swift, my special guest. Big Coop. You big dope. By the way, I'm not talking about you. The Mark Levin, we love him. All right, we're going to take a break. 844-766-6607.
Hickson has that hotline. We'll take a break. Be right back. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show.
Up with this last week is I'm a constitutional conservative. I look at this. If I'm reading these news reports, we have a runaway executive branch. I don't know who knows what. And as of today, the media don't appear to know who knows what, which is exactly why I've been calling for congressional investigations. The question is, why aren't CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and all the rest of them, why aren't they concerned about this?
I want to see.
Excuse me, you big dope. Y'all, welcome back, Moon Griffon
Are you
Show.
okay?
No, I'm not.
That's what you get for eating before you go back on the air.
I put some in my throat. Hey, boy, I'm getting choked. That's all right, though. I got a special guest. Susan Swift joins us. Susan, Obama, denial, denial. I want you to talk about this.
I will let you know. This is in response to Trump had tweeted out that, he just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower. And so what happened is that Obama sent a spokesperson out named Kevin Lewis to issue a statement. And here's what the statement said. Now, you got to put on your lawyer ears when you're listening to this, okay? And I'm going to try to use a voice that emphasizes it. Here's the statement. It's a quote. A cardinal rule of the Obama administration was that no White House official ever interfered with any independent investigation led by the Department of Justice. Okay, well, there's a couple things here. First of all right, no White House official ever interfered. Who said that they were interfering? What we're talking about is authorizing or knowledge of. That statement does not deny that surveillance was related to Trump. That statement does not deny that Obama may have requested it, because only a judge can order surveillance. Obama doesn't order it, but a judge does. That statement also does not deny knowledge of any surveillance, and that statement that kind of tacitly admits that there's some sort of investigation by the Department of Justice, that no White House official ever interfered with any independent investigation led by the Department of Justice. Oh, so there's a Department of Justice investigation going on? And you didn't interfere with it. We didn't say that you did. That's the first part of it. The second part of the statement is, Lewis said, as part of that practice, neither President Obama nor any White House official ever ordered surveillance on any U.S. citizen. Now, you have to parse those words very carefully. Under the FISA court, that's the secret court that has to do with national security, the threshold to get a warrant is much lower. It's not the same as when you're going through a criminal court. And it doesn't have to do with surveillance of a U.S. citizen. All you have to do in the FISA court is allege that there is a foreign agency or a foreign entity that you are monitoring. So you can say, well, I never ordered surveillance of a U.S. citizen. I went into FISA and ordered a surveillance of a foreign entity.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? These are very, very careful.
Obama,
he's a lawyer. He's very clever. And these statements are non-denial denials. He also doesn't say that he didn't know about the surveillance.
No. I think you put it pretty nicely. I can say I didn't do something, but I got Brandon, my program director, to do it. Instead of saying but Brandon,
do it.
Yeah, but Brandon did it because I asked him to do it. But all Brandon's got to say, well, I just did it. I have nothing to do with Moon. I mean, come on, and that's lawyer speak and double talk and everything else. Here's my big question for you, and you may get this on the head, you may not. Where do you think this thing goes? I know what the press is doing. The media, of course, they hate Trump. They hate anything to the right of I don't know, a rattlesnake. But the point being is, where do you really think this is going to go? Will it have something that we can get it to run our way, and where you have Republicans gut up on this thing and make something happen? Where do you think all this is going? Seriously.
Well, it depends. Again, we're back in that foxhole. We don't know if we've got enough Republicans with the stones necessary to fight. And if they will, what has to happen is Congress has to convene an investigation. I completely agree with Nancy Pelosi and the rest. We have to have an investigation to get to the bottom of it. Absolutely, we have to. What we need to produce the FISA warrant and the documents coming up to it. Don't worry. You know what? If there's anything having to do with national security in there, I'm sure the Congressional Committee can redact anything that's super sensitive. But America has a right to know whether our candidate who was running at the time, this is before he was elected, whether he was indeed surveilled. If the Trump Tower server was part of it. If some
okay,
of
let me ask this, Susan. How hard would it be listening to Mark Levin? It sounds like this would not be hard, and even listening to you, this would not be hard to prove if they would just investigate what we're talking about here. This wouldn't be hard to prove at all. A matter of fact, it's probably why Levin has made the points that he's made. This would not be that hard to prove to make sure that something happened or didn't happen. And am I correct by saying that?
Absolutely. And here's what else. The left and all the left-wing media, they should want to. Here's why. Because they can shut us all up, and they can say, see, you guys were all full of conspiracy and you're all lying. You guys on the right, you were making conspiracy because there's nothing there. Okay? Fine. If there's no warrant, there's no FISA court application, there's either documents there or they're not. If they're not there, then Heat Street is wrong, and the New York Times is wrong, and the Guardian is wrong, and Washington Post is wrong. All those sources that Mark Levin listed, all right, they're all wrong. And maybe we're wrong, too, because we're relying on the words you all printed. Mm-hmm. We're relying on these reports in the paper of record. So, yes, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong that Donald Trump was not being investigated for ties to Russia. Because that's all we've heard for the last, 6-8 months?
Yep.
That's all we've heard. So fine, prove us wrong, and we've got it all wrong. We'll all fall on our swords and say we were so wrong. And you guys are the smart people in the media, and we don't know what we're talking about. It's very easy. Go to the FISA court, request the documents, all of the records. You can redact it so that there's nothing that's going to be exposed that's sensitive to security. And we can also produce the daily briefings, the security briefings to the president that's been going back for over a year or so. Mm-hmm. So we can prove when Obama knew and when he knew it, what he knows and when he knew it. Yes. That's easily done. You can redact it. It goes to Congress in a special committee so that there's not going to be anything leaked, although, the Democrats will leak it. But then prove us wrong.
I agree with you. Susan Swift, One Nation News. Susan, I agree with you that it can be done. Now, my question to you is, if the press, first of all, really doesn't want this to go anywhere. And it's the same, remind me of the voter fraud. They said, all right, prove it. But they really don't want that to happen. I mean, when you read what happened with Michigan, when they started looking at all the people that had voted multiple times, they just shut that vote count down. They didn't, well, never mind, y'all right, it's only 10,000 votes. They shut it down quick, and they shut it down because they don't want people to go look at all the fraud.
That's right. The media wants to control your mind. The media only wants you to know what they, remember, this is Mika Brzezinski on a couple weeks ago. She said that's the media's job, is basically to control the information. Remember?
Yeah. Oh no, we played it on our program. That said it's our job. It's our job to tell people what to think. That was the exact words, I think.
Right. They are arrogant. They don't believe that you are intelligent enough to know the truth. They don't want you to have all the facts there because you might start connecting the dots and say, well, how come you went back to the FISA court twice? What was that all about? And what is this? Why do you have 6 agencies? The FBI,
let me ask a quick question. Susan, when they went back to the courts the first time, and tell me if I'm wrong, and Trump's name was in it, the second time it was not.
Well, this is according to Heat Street. And see, here's the thing is, we don't know because we don't have the FISA court warrant.
Sure.
We're going off of, these are unnamed sources at Heat Street that said the first warrant named Trump specifically, and that one was denied. Now, according to these sources, the second one came back in October, and it didn't name Trump specifically, but it did say we're kind of going after this server in Trump Towers, which may have a possible connection to Russian finances, and so that's how they got around it. Now, but you tell me, and now this is just common sense, me thinking, if I have a warrant and I can surveil either wiretap, phone line, whatever you want to call it, but if I can surveil a server inside of Trump Towers that may have banking connections, don't you think that there's going to be other things on that server that might have to do with Donald Trump?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
How do you narrow that? So I think it might have been a backdoor way of surveilling Trump, but without identifying him. Now, I don't know though. You have to see the warrant and you have to see the application that had to have been put together by the DOJ and the FBI.
Okay. Susan Swift, thank you so much. We might do it again. God bless. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Moon.
All right, we'll do it again. All right, 22 hours, we'll be back. Of course, it's already hump day, Brandon. I know you'd be pumped getting closer to
I'd love
Friday.
it if it was already Friday.
You like everybody else. All right, God bless. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.